that you know, the more that you know. I think the world's hallucinating. I liberate, I liberate. We're so high, we lost touch with the things we created. I liberate, I liberate.
Cool, cool, cool. So I thought I'd now go into the Ableton session of how I made it. So at the bottom here, you can see the final mix masters done by Luca. So this top one's a dynamic one, which is really good for streaming, like for platforms such as Spotify, for more dynamic range. And then we've got the louder version here as well, which is the one that you just heard. So I'll just turn that off for now. And we'll look at what these are. This was the final session before I bounced out the stems and sent it to Luca. So when I made the track, I Liberate, the first thing I did was think about what I wanted to sing and talk about. So I was really drawn to the title I Liberate, because it like had the I for like technology, but liberate in all caps, symbolizing empowerment and liberation. So it actually started with me humming the chorus and writing the lyrics for the I think the world's in the chorus. So I'll solo that now.
I think the world's hallucinating. I liberate, I liberate. We're so high, we lost touch with the things we created. I liberate.
Yeah, so I had the lyrics like, I think the world's hallucinating. We're so high, we lost touch with the things we created. They depreciate, so we suffocate. Then they say love is hate, then we make our fate. I liberate, I liberate. And so I was going for like this really like monotonal sort of vibe. So it was actually, that was how the entire song started. And I guess then I kind of just worked backwards from there arrangement wise, and wrote a verse and a pre-chorus to then get to that moment in the chorus. So I'd think lyrically how I wanted to get there, and so that's how the song started. And then I built the synths and all of that around the vocals. So yeah, I'll play it from the beginning.
And I'm falling into a deeper bed.
So let's start with the main thing and the feature of the song, which is the vocals and the processing.
And I'm falling into a deeper bed.
Cool. So as you can see, I have 3 returns set up: A for my reverb, B for my delay, and C, I must have an inflator and a Fairchild 670 here. And let's go on to the channel itself. So I sang on my Neumann TLM 103 microphone and got a comp together that I liked.
And I'm falling into a deep.
Yeah, and then the next thing I kind of went into for this was my de-esser, my Pro DS. I've got my TubeTech CL1B compressor on here, my Fairchild 670, which I love this compressor. And as you look,
Falling into a deep.
the needle's only moving like slightly, so yeah, I'm only slightly adjusting with the threshold. So I don't like to slam my vocals with the compressor because it's already like super upfront, and I don't like that sound of over compressed vocals. So yeah, it's like this gracious and graceful way of like slowly building up the compressors little by little. But yeah, I often don't use this many compressors usually with my vocals. Usually it's just TubeTech CL1B and the Fairchild, and I call it a day, and that's it. But obviously I went more to town with this, and I think I was experimenting with the Manly Vox box to get a tone, I guess, that I liked. Yeah, and then I have another de-esser on the E2 de-esser, and I must be automating with a little alter boy for a certain phrase that I might have wanted to layer the dry wet mix, so it sounded like I had like a lower voice accompanying me, which is kind of cool. And yeah, then Pro Q3 rolling off the lows, and sometimes I like to do that at the beginning, but in this case I must have done it at the end of the line. And on the group channel, yeah, I have more de-essing going on. And then this plugin, which I just want to shout out, Oxford Inflator, I like now legit put it on all my group vocal channels now, and play with this effect knob and adjust it to my liking and my taste. And I've been using this plugin since like 2018, and I only recently saw that Rob, the Mixmaster engineer for Billie Eilish, was endorsing this plugin and using that. So that was nice affirmation that I'm not the only one that's thinking that this plugin is magical on vocals. Yeah, and I have more tube tech going on here, and I love this reverb. It's the Valhalla vintage verb, and I must have been automating it on. Same with the automation with this Valhalla shimmer, just to give it more of a spacious washed out effect, as well as the ultiverb, which is impulse response, like a convolution style reverb. And got this plugin, which is my favorite EQ color plugin, I think, to date at this point in time. And I love boosting the frequencies like as a color EQ around the 12 kilohertz, because it gives a more brightness and presence to the vocals, and yeah, makes it really cut through in a beautiful way. And I've got my Pro DS, and yeah, more Pro Q3 rolling off the lows just to make sure no low frequency content comes through. Sometimes I like to do, I haven't done on this vocal instance, but if there are certain frequencies, I would narrow the Q, narrow the resonance, and I'd narrow the Q, and then I'd go through with the headphone and listen to the frequencies, and any that I don't like, if it's really bad, I just like cut it out. Or if it's like I don't mind it but it like needs a bit of adjustment, I would make it dynamic by adjusting with the gain here. So a plugin that I really like to smooth out vocals with resonance, which I talk about a lot now, is the Synth 2, and you can adjust the depth. They've also got their own presets for all the different sounds, including vocals, but you can also just work with the factory preset, and you can also adjust the mix and the output. So yeah, it's not fully using this plugin, and you can also make use of the sidechain feature, which is another great feature as well.
Even when the only lies and lies, we won't let you go.
Yeah, cool. So now let's talk about the synths and the sound design. So once I had the vocals, I was building the synths around it. So, and that's a Diva plugin. This is another layer of a Diva. And I have these. Yeah, and I would give the main tone for the intro. So I love this beautiful sound to give the high. It's a silent preset. And then this main sound I made in Serum. And you got oscillator A, bipole harmonic, oscillator B, analog BD sine. And for the effects, you have compressor with multiband compression, the flanger, the chorus, delay, reverb, and EQ. Yeah, and to create movement and dynamics with sounds, especially plucks, and you know, they're not constantly going all the time, to fill that dead space and to keep the movement of the track, making use of the chorus, the delays, and the reverbs is what creates a sense of movement, dynamics, and rhythm in the space when the notes are not actually playing. And by making use of the LFO or the envelope to automate that as well, can create some really beautiful and interesting dynamics, so it feels like the synth is alive and it's playing off itself.
And I'm falling into a deeper abyss.
Let's keep going.
I think the world's hallucinating. I liberate. We're so high, we lost touch with the things we created. I liberate.
Cool. So if you can see, like with the tension and release, I built it up with a lot of lush synth sound design. So by the time that the chorus happened, I kind of just dropped all of that high end frequency content, and it's really just my voice and this like deep bass sound, which would then catch the listener's attention. So I'll just solo the drop bass sound. So as you can see, it's a very, very simple sound. It's literally a saw wave, but I've got a bit of processing on like a multi-band, a tube distortion, and some low pass filter. What's interesting, you wouldn't usually put reverb on the bass, but this is not taking up all the low frequency content. You can see I'm rolling it off at 95 hertz, and so the purpose of that is, therefore I can do some reverb on it, because I'm trying to create this lush bass sound that's like the tonal texture of this part in the song. Yeah, and so then I grouped it, right? And you can see I've got some sidechain going on, some glue compressor, and I love this plugin, Track Spacer. So that's really cool for creating space in your track. And if you need something to cut through, you can like sidechain it to this plugin. So what I do a lot with that plugin Track Spacer is I sidechain the kick always to basically all sounds, even vocals sometimes.
I think the world's hallucinating. I liberate. We're so.
And as you can see here, I have these Ghost bass drum tracks, and as you can see, I am sending the audio to the deep bass 1 and deep bass 2. So these kicks are not actually making any noise because they have been routed to that. So therefore, it will activate the track space.
I think the world's hallucinating. I liberate.
Yeah, and I've got my kick here.
I think the world.
Super simple kick. And you want it to cut through, and I love the drum bus. Everything internally in the box with Ableton is just really good for sound design as well, and you know, effects. And I have some really cool sounds that lead up to this moment before the drop. Yeah, and as you can see, I have activated delay 1 and a plate reverb for the 2 effects because, yeah, experimenting with delays is what really gives a vibe to a track and really helps with the sound design, right? Yeah, and that would be the main sound design of the drop. So you got Serum here, you can see how I did it. It's very simple, bipole harmonic, and I've got basic shapes here, 7 voices, 8 voices, a bit of detuning. And so then to keep changing it up and to introduce a new sound that's like signature to the track, it was this Formant bass sound. So it kind of gave me like a bit of a Daft Punk vibe. Yeah, so for Oscillator I had a pulse width modulation math 2 wave, and I saw for oscillator B, and then high 24 filter, hyper intervention, distortion, phaser, compressor, and filter. And okay, this is where the magic is. It's with the LFO1, I have automated it, routed it to the cutoff for the Formant 1 for the filter, which gives it that cool movement. And the other magic is, of course, with this filter as well. The LFO1 is routed to the cutoff and the resonance. Which is what gives it that like Formant-y, like Daft Punk sort of vibe. And I also have it on mono and legato and a bit of portamento going on. And another thing I'd like to highlight is harmonies. So as you can see, look at all my harmonies. I love harmonies. I think harmonies make tracks super lush. And you can see I've got a center harmony that must be like an octave above, and then one panned hard left, one panned hard right. And I love to do like octaves and thirds and fifths and all of that fun stuff.
Won't let you go, they won't let you go. This is
So we'll just solo that.
won't let you go, they won't let you go.
And I've also got a sneaky lower one, like with little altar boy, to give like that super manly layer, which I can't obviously simulate with my real voice. I can't sound like a man, so I use little altar boy to do that for me.
Won't let you go, won't let you go, they won't let you go.
So yeah, this is Little Altar Boy. It's very popular amongst music producers. You can adjust the format to your liking, but this one I just went hard, -12 pitch and -12 formants.
Won't let you go. This is how we'll survive. The more that you know, the more that you know. I think the world's hallucinating. I liberate.
You can see my CPU is going crazy, man, at like 70-80%, man. But I'll just quickly show you. So what I do, right, is I I like to work, I like to produce without the master, and then I like to create my own, I call dummy master. And, you know, because I need to kind of have a feel for how it would sound like the end product. So this is what my master channel was, and then I turned it off before I bounced out the stems and sent it to Luca. So yeah, I've got my EQ, a bit of saturated multiband dynamics, just very, very mild mid stereo bringing out. And then I've got my maximizer and yeah, Pro L2, which is doing a little bit with true peak, limiting on oversampling at 8. And what I often do is I have the isotope insight and I'm just monitoring that. And as you can see, that was around like -7, and that's often for these sorts of records, these kind of like vocal dance records, where I kind of like to aim for. And I also don't mind this plugin as well, just for monitoring the span plugin. Yeah, and so that's my track. And so yeah, I'd have that master on and I'd turn it off and yeah, make sure there's plenty of headroom for Luca. All right, I hope you enjoyed me talking through how I produced the track I-LIBERATE. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you, MusicTech, and this is Vinci signing off. Peace.